Wife cheated on me with my stepbrother and got pregnant, so when I asked for a paternity test she aborted the baby. So I told her parents everything, who later cut her off from her inheritance. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 29F, for 2 years. Our relationship has been pretty standard. We met at a work event many years ago. We were friends for a couple of years before realizing we both have feelings for each other and started going out. We dated for 3 years before I asked her to marry me, so we have been together for almost 6 years now. We never really had any complications either in our dating phase or after being married. She is beautiful, smart, and a great partner to me. I have tried my best to be a good husband to her and we have been happy together. Around 6 months ago, my stepbrother Darren, 28M, got fired from his job. Instead of looking for another job, he decided to take some time off to travel and find himself. Darren has always been sort of unpredictable and spontaneous. It took my dad and mom a lot to convince him to even go to college and get a degree. He always has crazy ideas that he has to be talked down from. But getting fired from his job because of being intoxicated during a work meeting is a big deal despite his history. He decided to stop drinking as well, and even though I was afraid this was just another thing he would pursue halfway through and quit, I tried to be supportive for my dad's sake. My parents got divorced when I was a kid and my dad married Darren's mom when I was a teenager. So when he asked if he could crash at my place for a few weeks because he wanted to explore New York, I didn't really know how to say no. I was skeptical and not really willing to do it, but my dad and stepmom asked me to let him stay and I couldn't say no. I asked my wife and she said she was okay with it, so I reluctantly gave in. He came to live with us 2 months ago. I made it clear that he couldn't bring any people into the apartment, and even though he could leave and come back whenever he wanted, it shouldn't disrupt our sleep at all. He was surprisingly okay with all my rules. For the first few days, he stayed out almost all night and I even saw him come in as late as 7 a.m. while I was already up and getting ready for work. Apart from that, he was quite nice. Had dinner with me and my wife at our place and even cooked for us a few times. I was pleasantly surprised. This was not the Darren I had known all my life. My wife and I had planned a weekend trip to Vegas the second weekend he was there, as I had some work there. We told Darren to take care of the place till we were back. Everything was decided, but at the last minute, my wife caught the bad stomach flu. That was Thursday night and we were supposed to leave the next morning. We were both really upset but still thought she would go if she felt any better in the morning. Unfortunately, though, it only seemed to get worse, and by the time we were supposed to leave, she was too sick to go. I tried to reschedule my work thing and postpone our trip, but it was too last minute and I had to go. I felt awful about leaving her in that condition, but I knew that at least Darren would be there in case her health got worse. He promised to stay in and make her home-cooked meals as well. I promised to be back Saturday morning as early as I could and left. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't see what happened coming. So I went to Vegas by myself, got back the next day, and saw that my wife was feeling better. I didn't think anything much of it. But after that weekend, I noticed that Darren was home more often than before. Earlier, he used to go out every day but didn't go out for many days on a stretch. I asked him if everything was fine and he just shrugged it away, saying he was just trying to conserve his savings. I didn't think much of it. But then I started noticing other things that started to stand out to me. I came back from work one day and saw that my wife was already home. Apparently, she took half a day off from work because she had a headache and forgot to tell me. Another time, I was home early from work and Darren and my wife entered the house together. Apparently, they had just met outside the building. This could have been a coincidence, but I had a bad feeling about it. I had never doubted my wife's faithfulness, and even though Darren was a messy person, I didn't think he could do something as awful as that. But I just could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. I knew I couldn't accuse them of something out of nowhere. Not only did I not have any proof, but it would cause an insane amount of chaos in my family that I just did not want to deal with. So I did the simplest thing possible. I asked Darren how long he was planning to stay with us. I told him that it was great having him around, but maybe he should start thinking of his next steps. Thankfully, he took the hint and said that he would be moving out within the week. My wife was in the room while I had this conversation and she just kept quiet. Didn't say a single word. I did not like that. Anyway, Darren moved out and I tried not to think of all my doubts and focus on my marriage instead of thinking of the worst case scenario. Once Darren moved out, things were good and I almost started to believe that I was just being paranoid and nothing of that sort was going on. I was embarrassed to think my wife would do something like that when she has been the perfect partner to me all these years. But then, something happened. Around 2 weeks ago, we found out that my wife was pregnant. 2 months pregnant to be precise. You can probably see where this is going. 2 months ago, Darren was living with us. I felt sick to my stomach. I'll give you some context. I am a few years older than my wife, as I have already mentioned. I was ready to settle down and start a family of my own by the time I was 30. When my wife and I started dating, I knew right away she was the one for me and I wanted to marry her. But she felt like she was too young to have kids and wanted to wait a few years before taking that step. I supported her decision even though this was not what I wanted. We decided to wait till she was 30 to start trying for kids. So we always use protection. My wife isn't on any pills because her body reacts badly to hormonal birth control, So she always insists on us to be extra careful, and I always use protection. Of course, accidents don't happen. But I just could not get over the fact that there was something wrong. The timing was just disturbing to me. She said she wanted to keep the baby. She said that even though this was unplanned, it was a good thing and we should be happy about this. I have wanted kids for a long time, so under different circumstances I would be on cloud nine, but I was in total agony. I tried to look happy in front of my wife, but I don't think I have ever felt worse. I did not know what to do. I could not talk to any of my friends about it because I didn't want anyone to judge me, but I just could not shake the negative thoughts and feelings away. After around a week of living in complete agony, I realized I couldn't just live like that. I had to confront my wife. I knew that this could have a disastrous impact on her marriage, and if I ended up being wrong, she might never forgive me. But I kept thinking of the worst, and the possibility of her being pregnant with my own stepbrother's baby was nauseating. We went to our first checkup, and we got some blood work and tests done, but all I could feel was a sense of complete devastation. I couldn't bear it. So I prepared myself for the worst and decided to talk to her. Around a week ago, while having dinner, I told her that I had to talk to her about something very important. She wanted to know right away. I was terrified but tried to be as direct as possible. I told her that I was sorry for feeling this way, but asked her if it really was my baby she was pregnant with. She seemed shocked at my question. Her whole face turned red and she started screaming about how I was a monster for accusing her of something so awful and how she has always been faithful to me. She asked me where all this was even coming from, and I told her that it was just too much of a coincidence that she was 2 months pregnant after it had been 2 months since Darren left. This made her even angrier and she started shouting even more. I could see that this was becoming ugly and tried my best to calm her down and make her listen to me. I explained to her that it was painful for me to live with these doubts and I wished I didn't have them, and told her about the things that happened during Darren's stay that made me think that something was wrong. She seemed to calm down a bit and told me that she understood that I had doubts, but I needed to trust her and in our marriage. I felt terrible, but I told her that I wished I could just erase these thoughts I had tried, and if there was really nothing to worry about, I wanted a paternity test after the baby was born. I even apologized to her and told her that I understood this must be difficult for her, but I had to be sure for my own sanity. Obviously, I didn't expect her to be completely okay with this and lash out a bit, but the reaction she had was insane. If she was agitated before, the mention of a paternity test made her go ballistic. She told me that I was cruel and she couldn't believe that I would make her go through something so humiliating over my crazy thoughts. I tried to keep calm, but honestly, seeing her be so against it just made me feel like my doubts were true and I was getting angry. I told her that this was an ultimatum and if she didn't agree with it, I don't think we can be together. This seemed to calm her down a bit and she said she needed time to think about it. We slept in separate rooms that night. The next morning we didn't say a word to each other and went to work. I spent the whole day at work thinking about what happened and imagining the worst case scenario to be the truth. The rest of the week was spent like that. She would come back late at night and refuse to speak to me. Every single time I tried to talk to her, she would get really agitated, so I stopped. I didn't know that she was just planning her next move. Last Thursday I woke up in the morning and realized that she didn't come home last night. I texted her several times but she wouldn't get back to me. I had to go to work but was so upset that I could not continue working and went home early. I spent hours waiting for her to come home, but when she didn't turn up past 9 and still wouldn't answer my calls, I got extremely worried about her. I didn't know what else to do, so I called up her assistant at work to ask about her. To my surprise, I was told that she had taken 2 personal days and hadn't been to work. Her assistant seemed surprised that I didn't know about this. I was extremely worried at that point and called up a few of her friends to ask if she was with any of them. When all of them said that they hadn't heard from her, I started imagining the worst. I was terrified that something happened to her or that she had left me. As a last resort, I called my mill to ask if she was with them. She wasn't, but my mill got very worried to hear that she had disappeared for 2. She said she would try to reach her and let me know if there was any news. We decided to call 911 if she was still unavailable. I spent the next half an hour in utter panic, but then I got a call from my wife. She said that she was perfectly fine and needed some time to fix things and I didn't have to involve her mother and stress her out for no reason. She sounded completely nonchalant and even annoyed. The fact that she showed no concern for stressing me out made me angry, but I controlled myself and asked her where she was and when she was coming back. She said that she would be back the next morning and hung up. I went to bed frustrated and extremely upset. I even thought of taking some time away from her. Little did I know what was in store for me. She woke me up the next morning and seemed unusually happy. I asked her about where she was yesterday and she said she was fixing a problem. What she said next was wilder than anything I could have imagined, and trust me when I say I had spent weeks thinking of everything that could go wrong. I asked her what she meant and she said that this pregnancy was putting stupid doubts in my mind and destroying our marriage, so she decided to save our marriage and got an abortion. She looked directly into my eyes and said that now I had no reason to doubt her loyalty and we could have a fresh start for our marriage. I was flabbergasted. I think this is the first time in my life that I have actually used this word and meant it. I just looked at her and asked her if she was joking and she said she was completely serious and hoped that I could relax now and not let silly doubts bother me anymore. That was my breaking point. I stared at her for a few more minutes, got up and left. I was afraid that I would have some sort of mental breakdown if I spent a second more in her presence. She started to follow me, but I told her to stay away from me if she didn't want trouble. I suppose my tone was serious enough to stop her. On the way out of the building, I called my lawyer and told her that I was divorcing my wife and she needed to start the paperwork as soon as possible. I told her that we needed to make sure she didn't get a penny of my money and set up a meeting for the next morning. I didn't know how exactly things would go, but I knew what to do. I called Darren and asked where he was. He said he was somewhere in Atlanta. I told him that I was divorcing my wife and asked him not to waste my time and just admit that they slept together. He stayed silent for a few minutes and just apologized to me. That did it for me. I knew there was nothing else to do. I checked into a hotel for the night and braced myself for everything that I knew was coming my way. The next morning, I woke up and went straight to my lawyer and gave her all the details. The adultery, the abortion, the whole 9 yards basically. She said that even though it's difficult to get a clean divorce with no alimony unless both parties come to a mutual understanding, since my wife has a high-paying job of her own and she is definitely the one at fault here, we did have a chance. I didn't even care about the money, honestly. It was more about the principle of the matter. I was done with this woman. I couldn't believe how cold she could be. It was like I had spent all these years with a stranger. The person I married and loved would not be capable of doing something so insane. I know that she slept with my stepbrother, but there was a chance that she was pregnant with my baby, and now we have no way of ever finding out. After almost 6 years into this relationship, changing my plans to accommodate her wishes and doing everything I could to be a good husband, this is what I got. I called her assistant and asked if she was at work, and she was. I asked her to not let my wife know I called and lied about planning a surprise for her. I then went home, packed up as many of her things as I could in 3 suitcases, and put them out in the hall. The next step was calling a locksmith and changing our locks. I did not want to see her, I did not want her in my home, and I did not want to see her. I then packed some of my own stuff in an overnight bag and headed back to my hotel cause I didn't want to be home when she came back. By the time everything was done, it was almost 5 and I was exhausted both physically and mentally. The moment I reached my hotel, I crashed on the bed and fell asleep. I woke up to my phone ringing. It was my wife, of course, but I decided to give her the same silent treatment that she gave me the day she got the abortion behind my back. She kept calling me and there were a million texts that I didn't bother to read. As far as I was concerned, I had nothing to say to her. After almost an hour of calling me relentlessly, she finally stopped. I thought she gave up, but then I got a text from Darren saying that she had reached out to him asking if I had spoken to him. He told her that it was over and that I knew everything. He apologized again on text, but I couldn't care less about that. I didn't text him back either and was thinking of what to do next. The next step is where I think I might have taken it a step too far. But I was heartbroken and humiliated. I didn't know what else to do. So something you should know about my wife is that she comes from a very conservative Southern family. They do things a certain way over there and had been pressuring her to have kids from the moment we got married, basically. For years I had taken her side at every family event about taking our time. I never once revealed that the only reason we weren't trying to have children was because she wanted to wait. I knew that if they found out about her cheating and having an abortion, it would not be very pleasant for her. So I decided to just be petty for once in my life and called my mill. I calmly explained everything to her and told her that I was divorcing her daughter for violating my trust. She sounded mortified. She wouldn't believe me. I told her that Darren had already admitted to the affair, and as far as the abortion was concerned, I could show her the positive pregnancy test and the doctor's reports from our first visit. The rest she could just ask her daughter to explain. I expected a reaction from my wife real soon, and sure enough, she was blowing up my phone in no time. I tried to wait it out, but when she refused to quit after an hour and a half of relentless calling, I finally picked out. Her reaction was as expected. She was beyond angry and said that I was wrecking her life for no reason and that she had no place to go for the night. I ignored her attempts to get a reaction out of me and told her she was free to check into any hotel of her choice and told her not to annoy me. I told her that she would be hearing from my lawyer soon and any communication from now will be done through our lawyers. I also told her that I would get the rest of her things packed and delivered anywhere she wanted. She told me that her parents were absolutely furious with her and said that she was not welcome in their family anymore and could say goodbye to ever inheriting a cent from them. This was kind of unexpected, even by my in-laws. I expected them to be angry but perhaps not do something this drastic. Obviously, I didn't say any of this to my wife. I told her that she should have thought of this before going behind my back and that what her parents do is none of my concern. She said that I was immature and petty and shouldn't have dragged her parents into our marital problems because now her life was ruined and she didn't have anyone. I responded by saying that I couldn't care less about her and hung up on her. She proceeded to send me a billion texts calling me all kinds of names and saying that she would take every penny I had and make me regret this. I also got a call from my father-in-law. He said that he was ashamed of his daughter and apologized to me for what she did. He told me that they were done letting her get away with everything and hoped that this would teach her a lesson. He asked me for the reports from our obgyn, which I was more than happy to share with him. It has been a few hours since then and my wife keeps texting me. I'm thinking of just blocking her, but somewhere in the back of my head, I have this nagging voice that keeps telling me I took things too far and should have kept it between the two of us. I don't regret locking her out of my apartment, and I definitely don't have second thoughts about the divorce, but I know what a huge blow it is for her to be cut off from her parents. Ida for telling my in-laws about my wife's adultery and abortion. Update 1. I want to thank everyone who supported what I did and those of you who shared your own stories. Made me feel a lot less alone than I was feeling and also put me at ease about my reaction. I've been dealing with the divorce stuff and it is not easy. She refuses to cooperate with me and is adamant on getting alimony. We have been trying to reach an agreement among ourselves and avoid going to court because we all know how messy divorces can get, but it seems like she is treating this like an offense against her ego and does not exactly care about practicality. I am extremely glad I had the foresight to kick her out of the apartment before she had a chance to take the ultrasound documents and the pregnancy test I have with me now. I have spoken to Darren about the whole situation as well. As angry as I am at him, he says he will cooperate and even testify if he has to. He has also avoided all contact with my wife and has blocked her on every possible platform. He has apologized for what he has done, not that his apology means anything to me, but at least he isn't doubling down on his mistake like she did. I couldn't resist my own curiosity and asked him for details about the affair, and he said that it did start that weekend I went to Paris. It continued as long as he lived there, and apparently, they met a few times after he moved out as well. He said that he had no idea about her pregnancy or her abortion. As angry as I am at him, I do need him to act right in case things go that far. I also know that the only reason he is suddenly so considerate of my needs is because he has been relying on my dad financially because his savings have run out, and my dad has made it clear that he will be cut off permanently if he makes the situation worse in any way. My dad has made it clear that the only reason he is not cutting him off immediately is because we might need him if the divorce gets complicated. I am trying as hard as I can to not lash out at him, and it has not been easy. No other good news as of yet except that I have moved into my apartment. I don't know exactly where she is and I cannot pretend to care. I am glad that I have owned this apartment for far longer than I have been married to this woman, so it is unlikely that I will lose it. That's all for now. I am gearing up for the divorce to get uglier. It's not like I have any other choice. I'll try to update you guys once things settle down a little. Update 2. I'm officially divorced, folks. It has been around 6 months since my last update and I have been incredibly caught up in everything. Since my last update, things have moved forward with the divorce. My wife continued to be difficult initially, but after several pre-trial hearings, depositions, and settlement conferences later, it became clear that if we let this go to a trial it would only end badly for her. Darren gave his statement under oath and we already had evidence of her pregnancy. We brought in our objection for her statement and she backed us on everything. The depositions were particularly revealing. Under oath, my wife had to answer some tough questions. Her demeanor and the inconsistencies in her story only worked against her. Darren's deposition confirmed our suspicions, and his apology, while it meant nothing to me, was a crucial piece of evidence. They also stupidly took some pictures in some intimate settings during the affair which Darren had on his phone. It was impossible to deny the truth. After the depositions, we moved to settlement conferences. These were tense, but my wife's lawyer seemed to realize that fighting for alimony wasn't going to be fruitful. Given her high-paying job and the solid evidence of her infidelity, it became clear that her demands for alimony wouldn't hold up in court. We were willing to settle things amicably, but I was not going to be taken advantage of. Eventually, my wife conceded. She agreed to forego any claims for alimony. The settlement also ensured that she would not receive any part of my assets beyond what we agreed upon, which was fair given her contributions during our marriage. I'm glad that the final agreement was reached without the need for an unnecessary trial that would only drain my energy and my finances. She will receive her personal belongings, and we've divided our joint assets equitably. The settlement ensures that both of us can move on without further entanglements. I am beyond relieved that everything is over now, but I can't help but feel like all of this has been a huge waste of my time. Not just the divorce, but the whole marriage. I cannot believe I wasted my time and energy and derailed my plans of starting a family for someone who didn't hesitate to throw it all away for essentially nothing. Thank you all for your support and advice. It's been invaluable during this tough time. If anyone else is going through something similar, stay strong and lean on your support network. It gets better. Update 3. Don't know if anyone's still interested, but I posted on this subreddit beginning of the year and it has been a few months since my last update. A couple of hours ago I got a call from my dad. I picked up not expecting much, but he told me something that honestly left me wondering how to react. Apparently, Darren and my ex-wife are seeing each other again. I haven't been in contact with either of them and didn't know that Darren found a job in the city and moved here. I guess that was enough to rekindle their flame and she somehow forgot all the insults she hurled at him during the divorce. I feel disgusted, I feel betrayed, and like someone made a fool of me. My dad said that he has made it clear to both Darren and my stepmom that he wants nothing to do with Darren anymore. Feels good to have my old man at my side at least. Anyway, that's that. I hope I don't hear anything about this anymore, so I don't think I'll have any updates for you guys anymore.